So, good morning. Optical fiber communication DET 3201. Uh, Course outcomes. The students will be able to understand the different communication media, various blocks and applications of optical fiber communication system. The students will be able to understand the optics rules, the and measure the optical fiber cable parameters. Students will be able to identify the suitable optical source for the given application. Student will be able to identify a suitable optical decoder detector for given application. Students will be able to identify suitable connector and measure the losses in the optical fiber. Students will be able to understand architecture of optical network for given application. The advantages of the optical fiber communication, it is having the enormous potential bandwidth. Now this is I think seventh lecture and we have already discussed these points. Let us just revise very quickly. The advantages of optical fiber communication: enormous potential bandwidth of the order of 10 raised to 14 hertz or 10 raised to 5 gigahertz. Bandwidth length product is 5000 gigahertz kilometer for optical fiber, whereas for coaxial cable bandwidth length product is 100 megahertz kilometer. So, enormous potential bandwidth. Then small size and weight, optical fibers are of the order of hair like human hair like diameter, and so it is having very small size and weight and can be used in the transmission in aircraft, satellite, ships, etc. Electrical isolation, as the optical fibers are made up of dielectric material which are electrically non-conducting material, so it is automatically having the property of electrical isolation. That's why it can be used in electrical hazardous area environment, and it will not create any arcing spark hazard at the abrasion or short circuit. So immunity to interference and crosstalk, as it is not radiating the or capturing the electrical waves, so it is having the immunity to the interference and crosstalk. So electromagnetic interference, radio frequency interference, and the switching transients giving the electromagnetic pulses. These are not affecting the optical fiber signal. So not required any shielding against the EMI, no not susceptible to lightning, no optical interference between fibers, and no crosstalk between the fibers. So signal security, as it is not radiating, it cannot be accessed very easily, or signal cannot be captured out from outside the fiber. And if you want to capture it, we have to take the optical energy by maybe some device or breaking the optical fiber. So once the optical power is taken for the signal, automatically receiver will get at the same time transmitter will get the signal that somewhere the optical power is getting tapped. So it is having the high signal security, and it is used in military, banking, general data transmission. It is having very low transmission loss of the order of 0.15 dB per kilometer. So communication links are possible with extremely widely spaced repeaters and amplifiers, so that reduce the cost and complexity, and it can be used for long haul telecommunication applications. So also due to that, it do not produce any noticeable delay as compared to satellite communication, because it is direct link from transmitter to receiver, whereas satellite has to take the signal for 36,000 kilometers up and again 36,000 kilometers in the downlink. The rigidness and flexibility, protective coating are there on the optical fibers of the glass material. Although the glass material is of the hair-like diameter, this protective coating provides the rigidness and flexibility, so that for some small radius we can bend the optical fiber or twist the optical fiber, and it is having the compactness along with the rigidness. So it is having the advantage of low weight, with low size, and that's why it is superior in the storage, transportation, handling, installation, and having more strength and durability. System reliability and ease of maintenance, as it is low loss optical fiber cables, which in having less repeaters and line amplifiers, so maintenance becomes automatically less, reliability increases, and lesser number of optical repeater amplifier improves the reliability as well as maintenance, making the ease of maintenance. The reliability of optical components is also better, and predicted lifetime is 20 to 30 years. And as laying down the optical fiber, the redundant number of large number of optical fibers are laid down initially, and once any fiber is get damaged, immediately it is traffic is switched on the alternate available many fibers, one of the many fibers. So it is having potential low cost because the optical fiber is made up of glass or polymer or plastic. So if it is a glass, it is made from sand, and abundant available sand and material is very cheap. Though the other components like source detectors, lasers, and the connectors and the couplers, these are having still nowadays also, these days also the higher cost, but research is going on, and overall system is having the potential low cost. We know the optical energy details. Always optical energy travels with the constant velocity 2.998 10 raised to 8 meters per second, and in free space, constant velocity in the free space or vacuum, we can say. And it is made up of the photons as energy bundles. So light is made up of energy bundles, which are called photons, and the photon energy, as we discussed earlier also, E is equal to H into F, or E is equal to H into C divided by lambda. Here E is the photon energy, H is a Planck's constant, which is 6.626 10 raised to minus 34 joule second. C is, as we know, it is velocity of the light in the vacuum, 2.998 10 raised to 8 meters per second. F is the frequency, C is the velocity of lambda is the wavelength. One more identity is there for the optical energy, that is C is equal to F into lambda, where C is the velocity of light, which is a constant in the vacuum, and F is the frequency, and the lambda is wavelength. So from this identity, we can say as frequency is higher and higher, wavelength becomes lesser and lesser, or wavelength is higher and longer and longer, frequency becomes lesser and lesser, so as to make this product constant. So this electromagnetic spectrum also we have discussed in previous lectures, and it is having the radio frequencies, and these radio frequencies are uh, long waves, then standard broadcast waves, then short waves, then very high frequency waves, then ultra high frequency waves. All these combinedly is called radio frequencies. After radio frequencies, for if you go for higher frequencies, it becomes the microwave. So after microwave, the range of uh, infrared is there. So infrared is divided into near infrared and far infrared. Near infrared, name near is given because it is near to the visible spectrum, which is after this at higher frequency from infrared. So in near infrared range, a small window is selected, which is called as optical fiber communication window, and this selection is based on very long duration research and experimentation by the researchers, so as to have the better properties and characteristics of the optical fiber system. And this optical fiber communication window is having the range from 1.7 micrometer to 0.8 micrometer. 1.7 micrometer to 0.8 micrometer means 1700 nanometer to 800 nanometer. 1700 1700 nanometer to 800 nanometer. So this is the optical fiber communication window, and these frequencies or wavelengths are used in the optical fiber for the communication as a signal or signal carriers. So optical window is 1.7 micrometer to zero point 0.8 micrometer. After that, there is a visible spectrum from red to violet, that is zero point 0.7 micrometer to zero point 4 micrometer, that is 800 nanometer to 400 nanometer, or 8,000, sorry, 7,000 angstrom to 4,000 angstrom. So after the visible spectrum, there is a ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, and cosmic rays. So general communication system block diagram also we have discussed, and general communication block diagram is having the same blocks which we have referred many times from second year onwards. An optical communication block diagram is having some blocks additional to this general communications system. So what are the blocks in the general communication system? Information source, transmitter or modulator, transmission media, receiver or demodulator, and destination. So this is the general communication system, and in optical communication system, we have to convert the signal. All the signals on the communication are always in the electrical form. Okay? Signals are always in the electrical form. So we have to convert the electrical signal into optical signal so as to use the optical media as the transmission path. So if there is first is there is information source that is given to the electrical transmit conditions it and gives this signal to the optical source converts into optical energy, and optical energy is launched into optical fiber cable, which is the transmission media, and it takes optical fiber cable takes the signal from transmitter to the receiver, and at receiver it gives out the optical energy which is given to the optical detector to detect, means to convert the optical energy into the electrical energy. So detector converts it into electrical energy. As the source is converting electrical to optical, the detector converts optical to electrical. Both are doing just opposite functions. They are complementing each other. So optical detector gives electrical signal output is given to the electrical receive, and electrical receive conditions the signal and gives it to the destination. So this is the optical communication system. So this is typical optical communication using the semiconductor laser source and avalanche photodiode. So digital information source gives the input to the encoder, encoder encodes it and gives to laser drive circuit. This drive circuit conditions the signal and gives to the laser diode. So laser diode converts it into the optical energy and emits it into the optical fiber. Optical fiber takes the signal, optical signal from source to the destination as a transmission media, and this gives the optical energy or optical signal to the APD, avalanche photodiode, which is a detector. So APD converts it optical signal into the electrical signal and gives to amplifier and equalizer. Amplifier equalizers the signal conditions this signal, that is amplifies and equalizes properly and gives it to the decoder. Decoder decodes and finally deliver to the system as a digital output. Here, if you observe, the laser is forward biased and APD, that avalanche photo detector is diode is reverse bias. So laser is emitting the light and avalanche photodiode is absorbing the light. So this is the typical optical fiber communication using semiconductor laser source and avalanche photodiode APD detector. Then we have also seen and discussed the construction of the optical fiber. Optical fiber is having the core, and around that core the cladding is wrapped, or around that it is placed. So core is having refractive index N1 and cladding is having refractive index N2. Always core refractive index is more than cladding refractive index. This is uh, done refractive index differences, such differences kept for achieving the propagation only through the core. If the core refractive index is higher and than cladding refractive index, and If you launch the light or optical beam or optical signal in particular launching acceptance cone, and it is making the critical angle in the path of the core cladding interface, then light signal will propagate only through the core and it will not emerge or go into the cladding, and it will not get any attenuation due to that. And this all theory we have already discussed in the previous lecture. So core refractive index N1, cladding refractive index N2, which is a construction. Then types of the fibers also we have discussed. There are two types of the fiber: step index fiber, graded index fiber. In step index fiber, core refractive index is a constant throughout the core, and cladding refractive index is also constant throughout the cladding. Core refractive index is higher than cladding refractive index. Whereas in the graded index fiber, the core refractive index varies from the axis of the core towards the core cladding interface, and it is highest maximum at the axis of the core, and it becomes equal to the cladding refractive index at the core cladding interface. So slowly, gradually, it changes from highest to the smallest refractive index in the core. And in the cladding, it is a constant throughout the cladding again. So there are two types based on the refractive index profiles: step index fiber, gradient index fiber, and based on the number of modes transmitted through the fiber. Again, there are two types: single mode fiber, multi-mode fiber. So both step index fiber as well as graded index fiber can be made with the single mode transmission or multi-mode transmission fibers. So in all there are four types. So step index fiber, which is used for single mode transmissions, or step index fiber, which is used for multi-mode transmission; graded index fiber, which is used for single mode transmission; graded index fiber, which is used for multi-mode transmission. So single mode step index fiber, multi-mode step index fiber, single mode graded index fiber, multi-mode graded index fiber. These are the four types. So for generally for single mode fiber, laser is used for the source, and multi-mode fibers, LED is used. So this is shown the step index fiber construction, and single mode and multi-mode fibers are there. So this is multi-mode and this is single mode. Okay. So to the left side of the uh, fiber construction, a graph is shown which is called refractive index profile. So what refractive index profile indicates is the refractive index versus the distance from the axis of the fiber. And this graph shows that in step index fiber, the N1 is the constant refractive index throughout the core, and N2 is the constant refractive index throughout the cladding. So this is the refractive index profile for graded index fiber, where the refractive index parameter alpha is used to vary the refractive index while manufacturing the fiber. So that refractive index parameter alpha is 1, then the fiber refractive index becomes triangular. If it is 2, it becomes parabolic. And if it is 10, it becomes nearly rectangular. And if it is infinite, then it becomes perfectly rectangular, just like the step index fiber refractive index profile. So this is the multi-mode graded index fiber, which is having the multiple modes launched into the fiber, and the optical path for the signal is near sinusoidal or parabolic. So which gives the lesser attenuation as compared to step index reflection type of the total internal reflection type of the propagation. So this is the refractive index profile shown on the left side of the construction of the fiber. All these things we have discussed in the previous lecture. So Snell's law also we have discussed. N1 sin phi 1 is equal to N2 sin phi 2, where N1 is the refractive index profile of the one medium, first medium, N2 is the refractive index of the second medium. And here it is considered N1 is more than N2 or N2 is less than N1. And the incident ray, yellow ray is incident with the incident angle phi 1, and the ray get divided into two rays, two types of the rays. One is reflected ray and other is the refracted ray. Reflected ray gets reflected back into same medium from the material boundary, that is two different conducting media boundary, and refracted ray goes into second medium by refraction with the refraction angle phi 2. Refraction angles are always different and reflected angle and incident angle are always same. Refracted angle and incident angle are always different. So in this case, where the first medium is having the higher refractive index, here the incidence angle is smaller and refracted angle is larger. And if the incidence angle is increased, then refracted angle further increases. And the situation or the condition occurs where the incidence angle becomes so large that the refracted angle becomes 90 degree. And this condition is called critical angle. Okay. Whenever the incidence angle at core cladding boundary interface becomes such large angle that the refracted angle in the cladding becomes 90 degree, then the beam travels in parallel to the core cladding interface. This incidence angle is called critical angle phi c. And if we make the incidence angle more than phi c, more than critical angle, then the refracted rays or refracted beam also turns back into the same medium, because refracted angle becomes more than 90 degree, and it is not possible and it is not refraction. So it is called total internal reflection. All the total optical power or optical energy get reflected back into same material. It is called total internal reflection. Here phi 1 is always equal to phi 2. So this is shown in the figure and the rightmost side. So this is the figure for critical angle and this is the figure for total internal reflection. Okay. And first one is the figure to explain the phenomena of reflection of Snell's law. So as we know, the critical angle sin phi c is equal to n2 upon n1, where n2 is the refractive index of cladding and n1 is the refractive index of core, and phi c is the critical angle. This equation can be very easily derived, and yesterday we have seen the derivation also, and this is not expected now, the derivation. The only formula is expected, sin phi c is n2 upon n1. So acceptance angle is the angle we have discussed yesterday, that it is a conical volume through which if the light ray is launched then into the fiber, then when light ray reaches into the fiber, it makes the angle at the normal of core cladding interface more than critical angle. It makes the angle at normal to the core cladding interface more than critical angle. And this volume is called acceptance cone, which ensures the ray angle more than critical angle into the fiber. The cone ensures the propagating ray angle more than critical angle into fiber. And if the light ray or light beam is launched outside from outside the acceptance cone, then this light ray will make less than critical angle on the incidence of core cladding interface. And due to this, there is loss of, eventually loss of optical energy into the radiation in the cladding. Loss of the energy by radiation into the cladding. So this is the acceptance angle, and this acceptance angle theta A, acceptance angle theta A, okay, which is shown here. That theta A can be written in formula with the help of this geometrical construction study. We have derived this, and it can be written as n0 sine theta A equal to n1 square minus n2 square bracket raised to 1/2. Okay. So this particular equation n1 square minus n2 square bracket raised to 1/2 is n0 sine theta A. Here theta A is acceptance angle. Okay. So this is one equation which is giving the details of acceptance angle theta A based on refractive indices, that is the refractive index n0 is the refractive index of the medium in which the source is placed. N1 and N2 are the refractive indices of fiber core and optical fiber cladding. So these are the three refractive indices. N0, refractive index of medium in which source is placed. N1 is the optical fiber core refractive index. N2 is the optical fiber cladding refractive index. As you observe in this figure, N0 is the refractive index of this medium, and N1 and N2 are the fiber refractive indices. So this equation N0 sine theta A is equal to root of N1 square minus N2 square is uh, one equation for the acceptance angle. So derivation we have seen, but expected is this equation only. Then one more term, numerical aperture NA is defined as NA is equal to N0 sine theta A. N0 sine theta A term is defined as numerical aperture. Then obviously NA becomes root of N1 square minus N2 square. Again this equation. Okay. So numerical aperture NA is defined as NA equal to N0 sine theta A minus NA equal to N0 sine theta A, which is equal to root of N1 square minus N2 square. So NA is also can be given in terms of relative refractive index difference. Relative refractive index difference. Delta. Okay. So relative refractive index difference is the difference between the refractive indices of core and cladding, and it is given as delta is equal to n1 square minus n2 square divided by 2n1 square. But if delta is very less than 1, That is the difference between the core and cladding refractive indices is adjusted such that delta becomes very very less than 1. That is delta is actual delta is n1 square minus n2 square upon 2 n1 square. Then for delta very very less than 1, the delta becomes n1 minus n2 upon n1, simplified equation. And any equation using the delta is n1 into bracket 2 delta raised to 1 half. That is n1 root of 2 delta. Now, the transmission characteristic of the medium having the most important characteristics properties are: one, attenuation or loss, and second, bandwidth. That means the important characteristics among all other characteristics, important characteristics for the optical fiber communication are: one, the attenuation or loss, and second, bandwidth. As we have discussed the many advantages, out of that two advantages, while discussing, it was said that two advantages, that is enormous potential bandwidth and very very low loss. These are two important advantages. So these are two important properties or characteristics of optical fiber. Attenuation or loss obviously must be minimum as possible, as minimum as possible, and bandwidth must be as maximum as possible. So these are the two parameters, characteristics which are important for optical fibers. And as we seen, and the advantages, attenuations, typical attenuation is of the order of 0.15 dB per kilometer of the fiber, and bandwidth is enormous, that is 10 raised to 14 hertz or 10 raised to 5 gigahertz, or in terms of bandwidth length product is 5000 gigahertz kilometer, isn't it? So if you consider the first, that is attenuation or loss, amongst the factors affecting the performance of optical fiber as transmission medium, there are various attenuation mechanisms are taking place. The physics of the material is offering various attenuation mechanisms like material absorption, linear scattering, non-linear scattering, fiber bands. These are the mechanisms. Okay. And due to the physical properties of the material, these mechanisms causes the loss and offers the attenuation to the optical signal. So these are some major or can be highlighted. Some other phenomena or physics properties are there. Those are also offering the attenuation, but these are the some of the important. Material absorption, that means whenever optical energy is getting propagated into the optical material, glass material, conducting material, the material absorbs some of the photons, some amount of the energy, optical energy. As it is absorbing, so any energy cannot be created or destroyed. So obviously, material converts it into other form of the energy. So this is the material absorption. Scattering means whenever the optical energy is traveling due to the material constituents, the optical energy change is the sum of the properties like frequency, wavelength, the photon energy, and those are shifted and splitted into two or many. it is called scattering. Scattering are linear, non-linear, both scatterings are there. Then fiber bend is due to is the cause for the attenuation, and this is due to the uh, usage limitations or due to external factors. So while laying down the fiber may bend, and this is external factor, whereas the absorption, linear scattering, non-linear scattering are the internal factors. When fibers are manufactured, these properties are inbuilt to the fiber. Obviously, as these are inbuilt and it was the internet issue again. I think we were on 21st. No. So attenuation and the bandwidth. I think I'm audible. Is it? Okay, thank you. So factors affecting the performance of optical fibers as transmission media. Second factor is bandwidth. Actually, factors are many affecting, but from point of view of optical communication, these two are of our interest. One is attenuation, second is bandwidth. So second factor is bandwidth, and bandwidth is affected by dispersion in the optical fibers, and it gives the limitations on fiber. Dispersion gives limitation on the fiber bandwidth. Dispersion is a phenomena in which the photons changes the time of travel into the fiber and creates the phase difference or the delays also. And this dispersion causes the limitation on the bandwidth. How it causes limitation, that we will discuss. So let us check first the attenuation. Signal attenuation in the optical fiber is given in the logarithmic unit of decibel. So decibel we are already knowing, even in second year or first year physics also, or maybe in the high school levels. So decibels or decibel is a logarithmic unit which is used for measuring the attenuation or comparing the two different power levels. So decibel attenuation is defined for particular optical wavelength as ratio of input or transmitted optical power Pi, I for input suppose, into the fiber to the output or received optical power Po, O for output from the fiber. So decibel attenuation is defined for a particular optical wavelength as a ratio of the input or transmitted optical power Pi into the fiber to the output or received optical power Po from the fiber as number of decibels or dB equal to 10 log to the base 10 Pi upon Po. So dB is equal to 10 log to the base 10 of Pi divided by Po. So Pi upon Po is called power ratio, numerical value of power ratio. So numerical value of power ratio is obtained from the decibel as Pi upon Po is equal to 10 to the power dB by 10. So these are the two formulae, attenuation formula and power ratio formula. Pi upon Po is 10 to the power dB upon 10. So attenuation is nothing but the ratio of the input to the output power. Now for fiber, the one more term, that is per unit length attenuation, is defined. Alpha dB. dB is the total attenuation. dB is the total attenuation for any device. For example, a circuit is there. Input power is how much, output power is how much, for total circuit is measured, and total attenuation can be found out. Suppose for optical fiber is there for 100 kilometers or 500 kilometers from Mumbai to Goa, suppose Panji. Then the input power at Mumbai is measured and output power at Panji is measured. So total system is considered. So this is giving total decibel loss. But it is also important in optical fiber systems that per unit length attenuation is also should be known. Per unit length, per kilometer, suppose. Per kilometer attenuation is how much? And that is given by per unit length attenuation, alpha dB. In optical fiber communication, the attenuation is usually expressed in decibels per unit length, that is dB per kilometer. As we have discussed, dB dot kilometer raised to 1/2 is nothing but dB per kilometer. Kilometer raised to 1/2 means anything raised to 1/2 means it is denominator term. dB in the denominator kilometer, dB per kilometer. So you can say it a dB per kilometer or dB kilometer raised to 1/2 raised to -1. So dB per kilometer is given as alpha dB into capital L equals to 10 log to the base 10 Pi upon Pu. So total dB or total attenuation is nothing but alpha dB into L, where alpha dB is the signal attenuation per unit length in decibel. Alpha dB is signal attenuation per unit length in decibel. Whatever is the total cable is there, out of that per unit cable for 1 kilometer, how much is the loss? That is alpha dB. And capital is the total length. Suppose for 1 kilometer loss is known. So for 500 kilometer, multiply by 5. 1 kilometer fiber gives you alpha dB loss. Then 500 kilometer cable will give 500 times alpha dB. Simple as that. As simple as that. So alpha dB into L is nothing but total attenuation, total dB or total attenuation. Total attenuation is equal to alpha dB into L. So alpha dB into L can be written as 10 log to the base 10 Pi upon Pu. So this is called per unit length attenuation. Now the different causes of the losses or attenuation. Material absorption losses in silica glass fiber is there, and these material absorption losses can be divided into two types, that is, one is intrinsic absorption and second is extrinsic absorption. Material absorbs the light. Material absorbs the photons, some of the photons out of the total photons. The material which conducts the optical photons absorbs some of the photons. This is called material absorption loss. So this absorption of some of the photons is categorized, classified, divided into two types. One is intrinsic absorption Second is extrinsic absorption. It is very simple from the name. Intrinsic means due to the material itself. Intrinsic म्हणजे original material and extrinsic means added impurity materials. We are already knowing intrinsic extrinsic concept from the semiconductor materials and semiconductor devices, isn't it? Pure semiconductor is intrinsic and impurity added semiconductor is extrinsic. So the material in the glass conductor or conducting medium is having its own material intrinsic as well as some impurities, that is extrinsic material. So the absorption due to the glass material itself is intrinsic absorption, and absorption due to the external material into the glass is called extrinsic absorption. Simple. It is very simple. So there are two types of the absorptions. One is intrinsic absorption, second is extrinsic absorption. So intrinsic absorption, the glass material absorption it is. This is due to the molecular bond vibrations. So glass material is having the glass molecules. Glass molecules are having the bonds among them because glass is made up of sand, silicon, oxygen, germanium, oxygen, and some other materials like phosphor, like some halides, chlorine, bromine, iodine, like some other phosphorus like material, boron like material, and gallium, arsenic, indium, phosphate, etc. materials. Okay. So these all elements make some molecules of the glass. Okay. So obviously there will be interatomic bonding, intermolecular bonding. Okay. And they are having some bond lengths. Okay. Bond lengths are there. So in the microns, in the nanometer, micrometers. So these bond lengths, if they matches the frequency of the photons, they resonate, means they absorb the energy. So resonance creates poles or zeros. So if short is created, they will take all the energy, absorbs all the energy. So intrinsic absorption is molecular or bond vibration or glass material absorption. Extrinsic absorption, some external particles are there in the glass material like common metallic ion impurities in the glass. Some metallic ions are there in the glass material like chromium, iron 2, 3, copper, zinc, molybdenum, and many others, which are appearing as the impurity, which are not required to make the glass, or it is not, they are not glass materials, but they appear as the impurity. They remain as an impurity into the glass. And they are having their own molecular lengths or bondings. And those bond also absorbs due to their vibration some photons matching to their properties. Similar to the metallic ion impurity, the water or hydroxyl group OH group ions are also appear into the glass as an impurity. Hydroxyl ion are also appearing as the impurity. So those also absorbs the photons. So these are the extrinsic absorption. Intrinsic absorption, glass material absorption is there. Glass material bonds, molecular bonds, vibrations absorbs the energy matching to their bond length. And similarly, one more is there in the intrinsic absorption, that is scattering. Scattering is also due to the internal material properties or constructional properties. Constructional properties as well as material properties. So constructional properties means, or constructional limitations means, whenever the fibers are manufactured, the fiber cladding, they are assumed to be very, very plain or straight line. But practically, core and cladding interface is not very, very accurate straight line. It is having some unevenness and zigzagness, and that creates the scattering. First thing, core cladding interface is not smooth. Second, there may be air bubbles trapped into core, that creates the scattering. Third, there may be unevenness in the homogeneity of the glass material making the core. Non-homogeneity may appear into the glass core. This is the third cause. Fourth cause is there may be the refractive index fluctuations. Fifth cause is there may be the fluctuation in densities of the material. Now these three are same. If the density of the material is fluctuating and not same, then based on the material density, the refractive index also fluctuates. Due to the material density fluctuation, refractive index fluctuates. And why the material density varies? Due to non-homogeneity. So all three are same. The next reason is fluctuation into the refractive material index, fluctuation into the material constituents, and fluctuation due to the densities. These are the three reasons. And air bubble trapping is the one more reason. Air bubble trapping is the one more reason. And there is uh, also the fluctuation in the uh, core cladding uh, combination. So all these uh, reasons causes the scattering. So scattering is also one more important parameter which causes the loss. Now scattering are linear, non-linear due to material itself or the manufacturing material itself, material property itself, and due to the manufacturing defects like trapping of air bubble, unevenness of the core cladding interface, and the material constituent fluctuation, density fluctuation, refractive index fluctuation, etc. So, based on that, linear, non-linear scattering are there. Scattering, linear scattering again is having one, two types, and non-linear also having the one, two types. So these are all material absorption losses in the silica glass fiber. Intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic is having scattering and glass material absorption. Extrinsic is having the absorption due to the common metallic impurity glasses and absorption due to the hydroxyl group or OH group ions. So scattering losses in the silica glass fiber are linear scattering and non-linear scattering. Linear scattering are, one example is Rayleigh scattering, second example is Mize scattering, and non-linear scattering is stimulated Brilliant scattering, SBS, and stimulated Raman scattering or Raman scattering, SRS. Mr. Raman is our Indian researcher who got the Nobel Prize, and whose research, after him, the name is given to this effect. Okay, stimulated Raman effect. So basically, Rayleigh scattering is due to the small air bubble or refractive index fluctuations, or the unevenness, which are in the homogeneity. So these are smaller in size as compared to the wavelength of the light. Whichever is the wavelength propagating into the light, compared to that wavelength, if these fluctuations are smaller, then that causes scattering, one type of the scattering. And if these fluctuations are comparable, that means equal or slightly higher, that causes another type of the scattering. So linear, this Rayleigh scattering are comparable to the wavelength, and my scattering are lambda by 10 comparable, that is lesser, smaller. Then these both linear scattering, Rayleigh scattering, my scattering, are reduced by reducing the inhomogeneity fluctuation or material constituent fluctuation, reducing the air bubble trapping into the material, and reducing the core cladding interface fluctuations. Okay. So these can be reduced. Now these are the linear scattering. In case of non-linear scattering, stimulated Brillouin scattering and stimulated Raman scattering, due to the physical properties of the material, while traveling the photon gets some application of some phenomena that stimulates the photon to break into two. So once the this unevenness are the causes. Once the photon breaks into almost equal parts into two photons, and once the photon breaks into one photon and second phonon, phonon means very small amount of energy bundle in the acoustic range, in the acoustic range. So whenever there is a change in the splitting in the uh, photon energy into almost equal amount of energies, then there will be a very large shift into their frequencies, original photon frequency, from original photon frequency. Because as we know, photon energy is E equals to H into F. H is a constant, 6.606 into 10 raised to minus 34 joule second. H is a constant, and energy, photon energy, is directly proportional to frequency. Now, if one photon is traveling, having some amount of energy in it, and it gets splitted into two with smaller amount of energies, Then original photon is having suppose 100 uh, energy, and then it gets splitted into 50 energy and 50 energy. Suppose, okay. Now first photon is having H into F frequency, but the second two photons are having H into say F1 frequency and H into F2 frequency. Now H is constant in all three cases, but as the energy for three photons are different, the highest energy will have highest frequency. Smaller energy photons are having smaller frequency because E is equal to H into F. H is a constant for all three photons. That means the original photon is having some different frequency, and when get divided into two photons, new photons will have two different energies. If exactly equal division is there, then both will have same frequency. But it is not possible. When the photon scatters, that photon will get scattered into two equal amount of energy is not possible. So unequal scattering is there, slightly more or less energy. So two different energies, two different frequencies will be generated. So this is frequency shifting. Original optical signal is sent with some 100 energy, photon energy, and it gets splitted into 51 and 49, then two different frequencies will be generated. So some of the photons get scattered. Sorry. Some of the photons get scattered, and remaining photons of all 100, suppose, travels, propagates. Along with the original photons, these scattered photons also travels. But at the detector only can identify the frequencies which are tuned to it. The tuning of the source and detector, a pairing of the source of detector is always there. Whenever you go to buy the uh, optical source, you always get source detector pair. That means source and detector are operating at particular wavelength or particular frequency. So whatever the source is emitting the frequency or wavelength, only that wavelength or that frequency is detected by the source. Other wavelengths and other frequencies are not detected by the source. And sometimes while doing the project, etc., or using this into the laboratory, if we take one source and from one pair and from different frequency specifications, different pair, we take the detector, then source output is not detected by that detector. So this happens. So or less detected. Okay, output comes as lesser. So this is the frequency shifting due to the scattering. Now this frequency shifting is there in all the type of scattering: Rayleigh scattering, Mie scattering, stimulated Boolean scattering, stimulated Raman scattering. But stimulated Brillian and stimulated Raman scattering are non-linear, and for particular range of the power, suppose we are sending some very small amount of optical power, these non-linear scattering are not observable, they are not appearing. And if you cross certain threshold of the optical power or higher optical power, these non-linear scatterings are very heavily being observed or they appear. So that's why they are called non-linear scattering. And these stimulated Boolean and stimulated Raman scattering are observed for two different frequency ranges. and their formulae are also there for threshold powers in the due course that we'll discuss afterwards, and formulae for relay scattering, and due to that whatever the loss is occurring, that all these things we will discuss in the due course. Okay. So first, the relay scattering. So relay scattering is having the uh, relay scattering coefficient calculation. Relay scattering is the scattering due to which mm, uh, this divides the photon into two, and that how the photon get attenuated or lost due to the division or scattering. Suppose the one frequency photon is traveling and it gets shifted to the other frequency by division. Some amount of energy is taken out as a phonon or other photon. Then frequency is changed, and our wavelength is also changed. So for this wavelength or for this frequency, detector is not available at the receiver, and this detector is not detecting these photons. So if detector is not detecting, its output will not be counted. That means they are lost. Okay. In this way, the loss of the optical, some of the optical power which are scattered photons is taken place. Okay. So how much loss takes place in the Rayleigh scattering is calculated by finding first the Rayleigh scattering coefficient. Okay. Uh, this we can say gamma r is equal to 8 pi raised to 3 n raised to 8 p square beta c ATF divided by 3 lambda raised to 4. This is the Rayleigh scattering coefficient, where lambda is optical wavelength in this formula. N is the refractive index of the medium. P is the average photoelastic coefficient. Beta C is the isothermal compressibility, point effective temperature. TF and K is a Boltzmann constant, 1.381 10 raised to minus 23 joule per Kelvin. The Kelvin raised to minus 1 means per Kelvin. Using this Rayleigh scattering coefficient, we can find out the uh, transmissivity per kilometer. So transmissivity is given as exponential of minus gamma r into L. Transmissivity is exponential of minus gamma r into L. And then attenuation is given as 10 log to the base 10 1 upon transmittive kilometer per kilometer transmittivity. Attenuation is 10 log to the base 10 1 upon transmissivity. So this is the scattering loss calculation in the Rayleigh scattering. And then my scattering for irregularity and inhomogeneity size is greater than lambda by 10, comparable to wavelength. Very small irregularity are there, then it is Rayleigh scattering. But if it is comparable to the wavelength, that is more than lambda by 10, then the scattered intensity is large. Okay. Scattered amount is large. The inhomogeneity is reduced by removing the imperfections due to the glass manufacturing process. These imperfections, inhomogeneity, fluctuation in the refractive index, all these are due to the manufacturing process limitations. So these imperfections can be removed while manufacturing. And secondly, the carefully and controlled extrusion and coating of the fiber. Fiber extrusion, while extruding the fiber, that means while making the fiber, the core cladding interface fluctuation are reduced by carefully extruding the fiber and increasing the fiber guidance. Now, this is the material property by increasing the relative refractive index difference. So, if you find the detailed formulation, it is found that as we go for higher and higher core cladding in refractive index difference, that is difference between N1 and N2 is more, this scattering becomes lesser. Okay. So delta is more, this becomes lesser. Refractive relative refractive index difference is more. This is based on the uh, material properties. You can change the material, core material, cladding material, change its property, change its refractive index, and it can be reduced. So due to the manufacturing process, with the help of proper manufacturing process, it can be improved. That means the scattering is reduced. At the same time, by changing the material constituent and changing the refractive index, making the higher refractive index different, it can be reduced. This will reduce the mass scattering to significant level. So these are the methods we can reduce the mass scattering. Now stimulated Brillouin scattering. These are the nonlinear scatterings. In stimulated Brillouin scattering, the process produces the phonon of acoustic frequency as well as scattered photon from the incident photon. So stimulated Brillouin produces one photon, another photon, and one phonon. Phonon means very low frequency energy bundle that will have very small amount of energy. From original photon, very small amount of energy is getting removed. That means the scattered photon is also almost equal frequency, very near frequency to the original photon frequency. So shift of the frequency from original to the scattered photon is very less, and the scattered photon also may be detected by the detector because it is very close to the frequency to the original photon. So this is stimulated Brillouin scattering. Stimulated scattering, Brillouin scattering is only significant above threshold power density and threshold power PB. Okay, so above PB only it is becomes significant or considerable. Otherwise, it is negligible. Less than the threshold power, it is negligible. So PB is the threshold power. If you operate the optical fiber system with less optical power than PB, it will not show any attenuation due to the Brillouin scattering. But if you operate the optical system with higher power than PB, then it will appear as a significant loss. So how much is the PB? 4.4 into 10 to the minus 3 d square lambda square alpha dB into nu. Okay, this much watt is the optical power threshold. So above this wattage, if you operate the optical system, it is observed. Below this wattage, if you operate the optical system, it will not appear. Here D and lambda are fiber core diameter and operating wavelength. So fiber diameter and wavelength, both measured in microns. We have to substitute in formula both in micrometer. Alpha dB is the fiber attenuation in decibel per kilometer. So this is per kilometer attenuation. And nu is the source bandwidth of the injection laser, suppose, in gigahertz. So nu is taken in gigahertz. So this is about the threshold power in case of stimulated Brillouin scattering. Similarly, stimulated Raman scattering. In case of stimulated Brillouin scattering, the phonon is generated and that do not shift the frequency much from the original photon. But in stimulated Raman scattering, which is similar to SBS, stimulated Brillouin scattering, but high frequency optical photon rather than acoustic phonon is generated in scattering process. So from original photon, the amount of energy taken away in the scattering is high frequency photon and not acoustic phonon. So remaining energy is also another photon. So two photons are generated. Obviously, the energy sharing is more in between these two photons. The frequency shift is large among the original and scattered photons. So threshold optical power in the SRS, that is stimulated Raman scattering, is PR is given as PR equal to 5.9 10 raised to minus 2 d square lambda alpha dB watt. What is this PR? This is the threshold power above which if we run the system, this effect is observed, and below this threshold if you run the system, this effect won't observe. So PR is 5.9 10 raised to minus 2 d square lambda alpha dB. Again here d and lambda are fiber core diameter and operating wavelength, both measured in micrometers or microns. Alpha dB is the fiber attenuation in decibel per kilometer, and nu is the source bandwidth of the injection lesion gigahertz. Here nu is not in the formula. Alpha dB is fiber attenuation in decibel per kilometer. So fiber bandwidth, source bandwidth is not affecting this scattering. So this is about the different losses, scattering losses. Okay. So I think we should stop here today. Is it audible properly today's lecture? Once it was disconnected for 1 minute or so. Now this lecture you can observe, you can watch afterwards also on the same app which you have joined, and this lecture is available I think after 24 hours. You can check before that also. Sometimes it may appear early, but it takes I think 24 hours to appear on the app, and on this app you can watch it afterwards. Okay, as a revision. The same is same lecture already uploaded last year is available on the YouTube also. You can observe that. So tomorrow we'll continue. Thank you.